Hey guys, Mattlock London here. Today we are going to do a Dark Phoenix review and also how Fox just could not get right with the X-Men. Okay, so I admit I am a little behind. So I'm just now getting around to seeing Dark Phoenix, and honestly, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the film. The director's getting a lot of, I guess, bad street cred and hate mail or something ridiculous. But, it's one of those things where if a ship is going down and you put a new captain on the sinking ship, the ship's still going down. I think he did good. I think he did a great job. And Sophie Turner did a fantastic job. Everyone did a fantastic job. It was heavy. It was emotionally charged. They did a fantastic job of conveying emotion. There were things that lacked, but, I'm not going to go too deep into it. But in my opinion, it was a good film. I liked it. I enjoyed it. And it may be my second favorite X-Men film, second, of course, to Logan. So you can check it out if you want. If you disagree with me, that is A-okay. Let's dive in now. Now we're going to go into the other, how Fox just couldn't with all that, and now the X-Men franchise films. We're going to also finish with theories on what I think Disney is going to do with our beloved mutants moving forward. I remember way back in the year 2000, when I heard that they were making an X-Men film. I nearly pooped my pants. I grew up on X-Men comics. I grew up watching the cartoon. I remember having X-Men bed sheets. But anyway, finally, now I was going to get to see them in real life, sort of, in a live action film. I was excited. I remember loving the first X-Men film. Even though, even then, there were a lot of things that I was put off with, But what did I know? I was barely even 15 years old. The more time passed, the more X-Men films we received. I, of course, was super excited every time I learned of a new one. I began to quickly notice that these films were picking and choosing whether or not they would follow canon, as well as handing off storylines to characters they didn't belong to. And then the continuity that they even held between themselves started making less and less sense. We're going to actually try and make sense of the crap storm that Fox made called X-Men movies. We're going to try. We're starting in 1845 with Wolverine origins. Wolverine, or Logan, is a boy and is known as James Howlett, just learning of his abilities. We also find that apparently Sabretooth, or Victor Creed, and he are brothers. Taking some liberties there, aren't we, Fox? That's fine. I'm down. A montage begins after that opening scene that takes us through the Civil War, 1861 through 63, and then we run through World War I, which is 1914 through 1918, and then we hit World War II, which is 1939 through 1945. You didn't know you were getting a history lesson, did you? I'm educational as well. Moving along. We see Logan and Victor fight in the D-Day invasion, which was in 44. At the same time, Eric Lynch, or Magneto, is being traumatized in a Nazi concentration camp. We see this in X-Men, the first film. And then again in First Class by Sebastian Shaw, aka Kevin Bacon. Though, if we go back to X-Men, we find out that both Logan and Magneto were in concentration camps alike, supposedly, in the first X-Men film. Somehow, now we're going to land in 1945, and we have Logan as a prisoner of war in Japan, and that's in The Wolverine. And that's when Nagasaki and Hiroshima get leveled, so there's that. Simultaneously, Raven, or Mystique, and Charles meet as children. She comes and lives with him. Now we're in 1962. First Class, enter adult Emma Frost, Moira McTaggart. Also, we have Hank McCoy as a youngin', and his incident that transforms him into Beast. Xavier has Cerebro built. The X-Mansion is heavily featured, and as they are building their team, they come across Wolverine, who politely declines. Xavier is crippled in First Class. Moira McTaggart, her memory gets erased, and William Stryker is old. Moving now to Days of Future Past, so at that point, Xavier now becomes druggy. Terrible. Magneto is kept in the Pentagon, And 64 through 73, Bolivar Trask rises to power and uses mutant DNA to produce Sentinels. Enter William Stryker again, but this time he's much younger. In 73, Mystique kills Trask and then is arrested. Also in 73, Wolverine and Sabretooth are in the Vietnam War, in which an older Stryker is the head of that team. Anywho, Stryker makes the X Task Force with Logan Victor, the Blob, a sorry excuse for Deadpool, Agent Zero, and Will.i.am. John Wraith. In 1979, we find Logan in Canada as a lumberjack. Enter Silver Fox. Stryker subjects his own son to testing and has captured a ton of other mutants and is holding them in cells, including a teenage Scott Summers, or Cyclops, and a teenage Emma Frost. This is after we met the adult Emma Frost. Sabretooth and Stryker were working together with Silver Fox to pull Wolverine in and make him Weapon X. Adamantium. Enter Gambit from the Weapon X facility. Wolverine sets all the captives free, who are immediately rescued by Patrick Stewart. Older Xavier. By older, I mean much older. So we've made the jump from young McAvoy to much older Stewart in this film. Wolverine and Sabretooth bury the hatchet because they are now brothers and fight to defeat Deadpool. Not this guy, but this guy. Now late 80s, X-Men Apocalypse. Xavier and Magneto are banded together looking for mutants to bring to the school. Xavier is walking. Enter Jean Grey. X-Men, or X1, the actual first movie. Late 90s to 2000, Magneto recruits Sabretooth, who seems to have completely digressed in intelligence as he barely knows how to speak. Seemed to have grown another foot to a foot and a half, and seems to have absolutely no recollection to who his brother is. When he comes across him in Rogue, there's no pleasantries. Speaking of Rogue, she pops in with a mix of Jubilee's storyline and some other watered-down version of who Rogue really should be. Hank McCoy is reintroduced for the first time as a middle-aged human that is an advocate for mutants. The government wants to go through with the Mutant Registration Act. Enter adult Jean Grey pushing against said act and government. Also enter adult Cyclops, who has become a very whiny, jealous, Ivy League trust fund looking turd. Guys, listen. Cyclops was a leader in the comics, and in the cartoon, and in everything other than these movies. There's a reason why he was the leader of the X-Men. Also, enter adult Storm. Sabretooth is killed by being thrown off of a building. Which is... I don't know what's going on there, because... X2. Now we're sitting somewhere around 6 years later, in 06, something like that. Stryker gets the school location by drugging Magneto. He's old Stryker again. He also drugs Nightcrawler to attempt an assassination on the president. This is the first time the X-Men met Kurt, or Nightcrawler, but according to Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix, he's been in the X-Men for quite some time now. Stryker attacks the school. Enter Colossus, who wasn't even used at a fraction of his potential. Such a waste. Such a cool character. Just like Gambit. Stryker's killed. Jean dies. Enter Phoenix. X3. This is 07-ish. Phoenix kills Scott. Beast, aka Kelsey Grammer now, is in politics. Secretary of Mutant Affairs. We see a Sentinel in the Danger Room. First time we've seen that. Because it's not the... We didn't go back yet. It's the first time because this is the third movie. Magneto drafts Morlocks to his cause. No connection to Storm or Gambit. Angel, Juggernaut, Multiple Man. Not capitalized on. Phoenix kills Xavier. Wolverine's forced to kill her. And then Moira's back. Hasn't aged at all. And Xavier just happens to have a vegetable, comatose, identical twin brother for her to move his consciousness into the other's consciousness and is still paralyzed. Okay, 07 to 13. Sentinels are now being produced. The Wolverine now. He's distraught from killing Jean, so now he's living as a mountain man, hermit, weird, grizzly person, animal thing. Living in the wild. Here comes the samurai roots. Adamantium is being extracted from him. 2014, Inner Trask Industries. Xavier shows up with Magneto, who helps with the adamantium situation. Both are old, by the way. 2014 to 2023. Sentinels are unleashed. Days of Future Past. In 2023, Kitty Pryde somehow sends Logan back to 73 to stop Mystique from killing Trask. Sentinels come and kill everyone there, wasting Bishop before using him. Yet it doesn't have any effects of killing Logan. I'm not sure. Somehow this ends this timeline and starts another, or maybe it doesn't, or maybe it does. Back to 73. Wolverine, Quicksilver, McCoy, and Magneto stop Mystique, but Trask still gets her DNA. Xavier talks to Xavier. Magneto controls Sentinels. Mystique stops him and doesn't kill Trask. Magneto goes on the run to Poland in 73 through 83. Has a wife and a kid. Sad story. Xavier opens a school for the third time in this series. Mystique, as Stryker, sends Wolverine to Weapon X. Jean Grey, we meet her again, and Jubilee. In 83, Moira McTaggart returns and unearths Apocalypse. By the way, Apocalypse looked more like Ivan Ooze from Power Ranger movie than he did the actual Apocalypse. Cyclops somehow hasn't aged in 10 years, is joined by brother Alex, whom also has not aged, and they're both in school together. The Four Horsemen of Apocalypse, Storm, meeting for the first time again. Psylocke, Angel, this time Archangel, meeting for the first time again. And fourth horseman of the Apocalypse is Magneto. This is slightly different from the four that we've got in the comics, but let's run with it. Stryker shows up and takes several mutants with him to the Weapon X facility. They escape, set Wolverine free, looking much like the comics. It's a pretty cool moment there. Xavier goes bald. Young Xavier, not old Xavier. Old Xavier goes bald years before young Xavier does. Essex Corp is mentioned. Enter Mr. Sinister if they decided to go this route, but they didn't. Storm's good now. Magneto's good now. Phoenix powers emerge. The school is now rebuilt with a danger room. And then one day in 2023, Wolverine wakes up. And he remembers that he time traveled. Though did he? Was it his consciousness or was it his physical body? How and why? He's reconnected to everyone. Lost in the past somehow. Everyone and everything is fairy tales and happy rainbows. Cyclops, Jean, Xavier, everyone, all back. All of them. Everyone's fine. Dark Phoenix, 1992. Though we jump back to when Jean is a little girl first, we go back through that origin, and this go around, Xavier is alone and crippled when he meets her, versus the last time when he met her, walking with Magneto. Let's just move along. Contradiction or not. 92, right. 10 years later. Yet everyone's still in school. No one's aged. Everyone looks exactly the same. And somehow James McAvoy still hasn't turned into Patrick Stewart. Mystique is killed. Spoiler alert. It was for the best. Rewriting her storyline. They already had it written out and they just redid it just for the sake of Jennifer Lawrence. It's just... Anyway, things get real. Things get heavy. It wrapped up well. I enjoyed it. They should have wrote every movie like it was going to be the last, and would have been well. They didn't introduce much, which helped. They were closing it down. They knew it was the end. But that leaves us in 2029 now, with Logan. With all of this said and done, we have a crazy split timeline. With it, the way that it is, it's nearly impossible to say which timeline Logan lives in now, or the Logan that we watched, which timeline he lived in. First Class started it off, which led to Wolverine Origins, then X-Men, then X2, then X3, the Wolverine Days of Future Past, which supposedly at that point there was the split there. So we still have the Days of Future Past timeline where nearly everyone dies, which would explain why Logan and Xavier are the only ones living for Logan. Could be that timeline. Or it could be the one where he fixed everything, magical fairies, and everyone lived, and yet still somehow everyone died and left only Logan and Patrick Stewart. But Days of Future Past shifted everything, starting shortly after First Class. Now moving forward from there would be Apocalypse, Dark Phoenix, then the huge gap in time from 92 to 29, even though there's a huge gap from First Class to Apocalypse. Not answering a lot of questions and causing a lot of questions. So, with that said, who's to say that's the way Rest's argument could lie, that Logan fixed the timeline and returned, then much of the other films would have happened. All of it's just writer's cop-out. 100%. Whether there's one timeline, two timelines, three timelines, infinite timelines, Logan takes place somewhere around 6 years after what Days of Future Past would have. The last part, Days of Future Past, the 2023 version. So, let's talk Disney stories and theories. Okay? There's a good chance that we're going to start seeing the X-Men trickle into Phase 4. I wonder if mutants, the X-Men, everything that follows along those lines, I wonder if they're from another dimension. I'm about to do another video that is Endgame mixed with Far From Home and Spider-Man. This will be before Far From Home. After Far From Home, I'll do another video. But this is theories leading into that and through that. With that said, Thanos could have caused such a traumatic experience that people start having mutations in their DNA. Or he could have opened a tear in the dimensions. Captain America could have jacked something up whenever he went back, because he didn't set things right the way they were supposed to. They did tell him to put everything as it was, but he didn't come back. So I will talk about that in the other in-game video. There's going to be a lot of questions that will get answered, I'm sure, but we know that Disney will start over, just like they did with Spider-Man. They will start over with brand new people, new storylines, writers and directors. We're going to have a whole new run at this thing. I hope you enjoyed the video. So subscribe, hit the bell, like it, comment, share it with your friends, get people in on this. These rides are fun with you guys. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, love you. Talk soon.